one game. An NBA Finals 7th game. One game, the difference between basketball immortality and crushing disappointment. One game, a chance to become a legend, a hero, a champion.
What motivates me now more than ever is winning another championship.
It's going to take heart. It's going to take an uncanny amount of energy and strength.
To win a championship, it was one of the most emotional times of my life because that's what I play for.
One game, a chance for a legacy to grow. One final game. A season-long journey draws to a close.
Top of the world! Top of the world!
Hello, and welcome back to the Over and Back Classic NBA podcast at HarvardParoxysm.com. I am Jason Mann, and with me as always is Rich Kraetsch. Rich, glad to be with you.
Absolutely. We finally, the end of our journey of breaking down these game sevens, and we've come, like the NBA season, to the final point, the NBA Finals. And this is it's gonna be a monster kind of series of shows we're gonna do here, and I'm definitely looking forward to it though. A lot of research, a lot of work put in, and it's just good information too. I mean, what's better than a NBA Finals Game 7? Like, come on.
Yeah. So we're gonna do something a little different. We're gonna do some bite-sized looks at the Game 7s of the NBA Finals. All 18 of them. We're going to do a 8-part series, breaking down 2 or 3 each. So. Yeah, we think it'll be interesting. It'll be kind of it'll be neat to look at. There's obviously a wide variety of games, although many of them involve the Lakers and the Celtics. So we're talking about
unfortunately, but that's okay. But that's gonna happen.
It's NBA history. So
it's like if we did a baseball, but we talk about the Yankees probably like 70% of the time. It just you can't. There's nothing you can do,
nothing
right?
You can do no. So you blame the Hawks for trading Bill Russell, I guess. So
right, yeah, it's all their fault, really. Yeah. It's really the St. Louis Hawks' fault.
It really is, exactly. So. So we'll be getting into that soon, but of course you can check us out on Facebook at Over and Back NBA, on Twitter at Over and Back NBA as well. You can find the Hardwood Paroxysm iTunes feed with all the with us and all the other great podium game podcasts that are on there. It would be great if you could leave a rating and review on iTunes. It helps people find the shows. Yeah, and
more people listening, more people interacting on Twitter, more fun, more topic requests and stuff. It's perfect.
Yeah,
just do it.
So we would
come on.
Any feedback that we can get on what we're doing, positive or negative, we definitely appreciate it. So that's what makes the show better.
Yeah, and if you have any topic ideas, I mean, and I mentioned that sort of haphazardly, but it's true. I mean, there's been numerous shows where someone said, it'd be pretty cool if you guys talked about blah, 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 and then we, do a little cursory research, and we're like, yeah, that would be a great show if we talked about blah, 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 or whatever. So let us, what's your blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
Send it. We'd like to know.
Send us your blah, blah, blah. All right, well, on to the show. All right, and now we are at... Our number 6 pick for NBA Finals games is the Syracuse Nationals against the Fort Wayne Pistons in 1955. 55 was the Nationals won 92-91. This is the first season with the shot clock, and in fact, it was invented by the Nationals owner, Danny Biasoni, I guess. I don't know exactly.
I think it's Biasoni, but yeah.
He's Italian, so I'm going to go ahead and guess that there's the E at the end there, but. This is the final time the finals were played in a 2-3-2 format until 84, when it was brought back, and then it was dropped again in 2014, I believe. Fort Wayne's games were played in Indianapolis because of a bowling tournament.
I love how that. I mean, just those two. Okay, yes. Of the scenario where Fort Wayne had something like Fort Wayne, Indiana, had a bowling tournament. And they said, you can go to Indianapolis and play. Yes. Like that's unfathomable. Like think about that. Yeah. Of where you that'd be like some suburb of Cleveland being like, I don't know what's the suburb of Cleveland.
Richland, which is I guess where the
Richland Coliseum. Yeah. So them saying, hey, go to downtown Cleveland. There's probably a stadium there.
Fort Wayne's like 2 hours from Indianapolis too.
Yeah, it's not even that close.
Right.
Yeah, it's like
an hour and a half maybe. But it's not like it's a suburb. I mean, they're different places, but.
Yeah, but it's just funny. They're like, you know what, you can go to Indianapolis, like if you. But Fort Wayne was a big deal, I guess. At that point, it was still a pretty big.
I mean, it was
city.
this was
it had a goddamn NBA team, so
right? Well, this was we're nearing the point in which all the smaller markets are going to be moving to big cities pretty soon. I mean, Fort Wayne's going to be the Pistons are going to be in Fort Wayne for another 3 years or so. Syracuse is going to move in the early '60s. Rochester's moving to Cincinnati fairly soon. We're next 5 years, pretty much all these small markets are going to be moving to bigger markets. So it's just kind of the way the game grew. The Syracuse has Dolph Schayes, of course, as its key player. They also had Earl Lloyd, George King, and Paul Seymour, who were key players from before, but they added Red Kerr as their center and was kind of the key player to kind of get them over the hump. They had lost the finals in 50 and 54, but of course won this year. Fort Wayne was led by big man Larry Faust, who was I think kind of the second top big man to Mikan for most of the the early 50s, but it was kind of older and slower at this point. The faster, speedier big men were kind of coming in vogue. Obviously, Russell being the personification of that.
Yeah.
Also had George Yardley, Mel Hutchins, Frankie Bryan, and Andy Phillip. And they were coached by Charles Ekman, who was a former referee.
I wish that's. Can you imagine like Dick Pavetta? Like there's so
Dick
many
Pavetta
good scenarios.
Especially, yeah.
Like right. Like I want like the crustiest old like I want like Joey Crawford like coaching the freaking Pelicans or something like that. Like it's just like so good if that happened, but. I guess Scott Skiles is going to coach the Magic. So
there you go. Yeah,
kind of the same thing as a crusty old man screaming at young
guys. So the Nationals had 7 players in double figures. Schayes leading the way with 13 and 12. For the Pistons, Faust had 24 and 7. And the Pistons had a big lead in this game. They were up to 17 points in the second period, but Fort Wayne closed to Syracuse, closed 53-47 by halftime. Pulled almost even down the stretch. Which is the funny thing because this, without the shot clock, that probably wouldn't have happened. Like they would have sat on the big lead and it wouldn't have been like a thrilling game and Syracuse wouldn't have won the game because of it. So Biazzoni's shot clock invention actually
worked out swimmingly.
Well, yeah.
He knew what a prophet he was, but that's. It is. I mean, it's you kind of laugh, but it's really like I hope at the end he was like, that was a great idea, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Like he told his team, like, like what do you say?
Yeah, and even he had a quote later where it said, like, if it wasn't for a shot clock, it would have been the dullest game in history. So,
right, and he's absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about dullest game in history. But we did have the 2010 NBA Finals and the numerous other ones in 2005. But it's absolutely right. I mean, hey. Thank God for that invention, but it would have come at some point. But it's still great. I mean, games like this are why the shot clock is great and why it still amazes me when I go to high school games or whatever and there's no shot clock. And it's just I don't know if it's like that in Ohio, or anywhere else you've lived, but still in Illinois they don't have a shot. It's just so bad to watch games without it. It's like, come on, like if there's a lead within like 8 minutes of the game, it's like it's kind of over, isn't it? Like it kind of sucks, but. Not in the NBA.
No.
So we're
not in the NBA. Yeah. Thank goodness. It was a tie game. George King goes to the line. He hits one shot, so gives Syracuse a 1-point lead. Then the ball's inbounded to handy Andy Phillip, who attempted to go left on Seymour, but Seymour nudged him just enough and King got a steal. There was no call, and the Nats had their first championship. And later, Seymour admitted, I bumped the hell out of Andy. For years after that, whenever he'd see me, he'd tell me, you got away with a big foul. I bumped him a little. King was there, and that was it. And then,
did you ever have handy Andes by you?
No. Well,
the hardware store. Oh, you never had those.
Oh no, I don't think so. I don't think we had.
Were they regional? We had a line of hardware stores as I was growing up. And they were called Handy Andy.
And I got the Handy Andy from a story like Syracuse.com had an old version of a post standard story from the game story from the game after it happened, and I'm going to read part of it in my old timey announcer's voice. King pulled off the greatest steal since the Brinks robbery as far as Syracuse fans were concerned, with only 4 seconds left to go, where the Pistons had the opportunity of winning the Pro Cagedoms World Series.
The pro cage domes. I like that.
I love the old.
I hope that they say the same thing about Steph Curry won the old cage.
Well, yes, yeah. And handsome
That's
George
why we
King
like
was the
basketball.
hero of
Yeah.
heroes as Al Survey's gritty guys overcame an ominous 17-point deficit to beat the Great Fort Wayne Club by a hair's breadth margin. So all that good stuff. Yes. So
That's good. You should have had Handy Annies. They operated in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Missouri, Ohio, Tennessee, and Wisconsin. In 1987, they acquired the Forest City Lumber Chain stores in Ohio. You know anything about Forest City Lumber? You weren't buying lumber in your in your youth. Okay,
I don't remember Handy Andy's, so maybe not.
Well, Handy Andy's closed in June of 1996.
Maybe not in my part of Ohio, but
no.
Yeah.
I don't know what was remarkable about them whatsoever.
Yeah.
I just remember
they had a good name. That's all.
They did a good logo too. It's Andy, and he appears to be very
handy. Yeah, that's nice.
It works.
So in Charlie Rosen's book about Jack Molinas, I think it's called Wizard of Odds, there are allegations thrown out that George Yardley thought that Andy Phillip may have thrown the game. And his quote was, "There are always unwholesome implications about that ball game." Now, in Tall Tales, which is the Terry Pluto oral history of the 50s and 60s NBA, it does mention like gambling issues with the Pistons, because Jack Molinas had actually played there briefly before there were gambling allegations. And I don't think he was like the allegations that he fixed NBA games, I think, were actually thrown out, but he later had more gambling allegations in the 60s that I think he might have been convicted on. But anyway, there was no mention of it specifically in this series. So, who knows? But that is something that's thrown out there. So
yeah, and it's weird. I mean, especially when it's this tight, and you know what I mean? Like it's hard to really believe, something like I don't know. I mean, I always
and there were a number of things that happened down the stretch there. Even Yardley had like a turnover with like 18 seconds left. So it's like,
sure. Yeah. I mean, it's you could make the rationale. I mean, especially in this era, it's because we kind of, I always assume that a lot of this stuff happens, like before the game, if it were to happen or whatever. But honestly, in the 50s NBA, there's not, something that like, he was running down the court or something and someone yelled. You know what I mean? And you get that a lot with baseball too, where like they would hear something from one of the guys in the crowd, and then it would be like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to throw this game. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's still a possibility that at some point he got pulled away by someone and said, hey, do it. But it sometimes it's a little bit too convenient as well. So I don't know.
And college basketball was reeling from, gambling scandals of, during this time in the early 50s. The NBA was relatively unscathed. There was a referee who also, there were some issues there that, where he was fired basically for fixing games or, fixing margins or whatever, it happened, similar to, I guess, the Donaghy allegations. But other than that, there was not really much of a gambling problem, at least not proven in the NBA, or not even, any serious allegations. So it actually kind of helped the popularity of the pro game, because they actually came out of that relatively unscathed. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So number 5 is the maybe the most important series in the history of the NBA for a lot of reasons. The Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers, 1984. The Celtics winning 111-102. Celtics and Lakers again, although their first meeting in 15 years since '69.
So okay, I'll let them slide on this.
All right.
Yeah.
Lakers had won titles in 80 and 82, but lost to Philadelphia in the 83 finals. The Celtics had won the 81 finals, but were actually been swept by the Bucks in the conference semifinals in 83, which is kind of, probably their most embarrassing loss of the Bird era. The Lakers were coached by Pat Riley. The Celtics were in their first year with Casey Jones after Bill Fitch had been fired. So, this was the first meeting between Bird and Magic in the finals. Everyone was waiting for it. And I would probably say that it was maybe even almost better for the NBA that it didn't happen right away, because it kind of gave everyone 5 years of speculation of like, what if after the famous, Bird Magic, college basketball NCAA final game in '79.
Oh yeah, and you and I, we're wrestling fans. You don't immediately go to the big match right away. Like you got to let it build a little bit and get the anticipation going. Absolutely. And this was it. It was a hell of a build, and 5 years. And I agree. If they had immediately that next year, and what was good is they all sort of had their own little success here and there. Magic obviously, very quickly. But I think that was key. I think that was a very big aspect of it, is that there was some success for him right away and for the Celtics. But that it sort of took a little bit for these two to finally make their clash. I think that's important in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, I mean, I think just because we're a couple years away from really the NBA still being in pretty big financial trouble. There was a study about maybe contracting like 5 teams. I mean, there were serious issues with the league. Now things were better at this point, and obviously would get better with Jordan and with just a lot of things that I think most of our listeners probably know about. Leading to a huge rise in popularity in the game, and the Celtics-Lakers rivalry being a big part of fueling that growth, of course. Although obviously Bird was incredible in this game, 20, 12, and 3, and just a lot of timely passes. But one guy who may have even been the star of the game was Cedric Maxwell, 24, 8, and 8, kind of a little bit of a forgotten guy on these Celtics teams, because this was really his last year where he really contributed for the Celtics teams. After that he kind of was done. He was traded for Walton before '86. Parrish at 14 and 16. Dennis Johnson, he had 20. This was actually his first year with the Celtics. He had come over from Phoenix, and he had 22 points on 5 of 13 shooting, a little bit better than his 0 for 14 performance in the 78 finals, game 7. So, Celtics, of course, still had Kevin McHale, who was a 6th man, Joe Henderson and Danny Ainge on their bench. Kareem had 29, 6, and 4. Magic, 16, 5, and 15. So not too bad. Michael Cooper had a really good game, 16 with 6 assists, had some key defensive plays to almost get the Lakers back in it. Worthy at 21 and 4. The Lakers had Kurt Rambis, Byron Scott, who was a rookie, Jamal Wilkes, and Mitch Kupchak, the last two guys who were kind of at the end of the line of their careers. Kupchak had a lot of injuries, and Wilkes was just was kind of aging at that point. So, yeah, I mean, this was big. I mean, a real, for the most part, a very competitive series, went back and forth. The Lakers had actually won Game 6 in Boston, and of course, we're trying to win Game 7 in Boston. The atmosphere in Boston was like incredible. The Lakers needed a police escort to get back from their hotel to the Boston Garden. And, there was a lot of stories of people calling the Lakers hotel room and getting them up late, or, that kind of stuff. Just people pulling fire alarms, like all that, the crazy stuff. So, the Lakers were down by 14, but trailed by 3 just with more than a minute left. Magic had the ball. Johnson knocked it loose, but Cooper recovered it. And Magic again went to work. He spied Worthy open under the basket before he could make the pass. Maxwell knocked the ball away. The Celtics recover at the other end. Johnson drew a foul and made both shots, and basically, sealing the game. The Celtics ended up winning 111-102. So the margin of victory is a little bit higher, but the game was actually really, really close up.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and yeah, I don't know. Anything else more to say about this one?
Yeah, I mean, in particular, the series and this game as well, you can kind of lump that in there too. Just an exciting series, and absolutely, we talk about one of the big reasons why the NBA is as popular as it is today, and a lot of the stuff that happened and ushered in the Jordan era and all that sort of stuff. I mean, this game, you look at it especially, you look at these two teams, these two powerhouses, these two stars, and the games were super entertaining as well. They weren't, drags. They weren't, they were quick pace. They were, a bunch of points being scored, and they were super close too. I mean, there were a few that were kind of blowouts, but game 2 was a 3-point deficit. Game 4 was 3 points as well. This one, was closer than it appeared, and just overall, I mean, both teams scoring 100 in every single one of the games. Like there's just so much there, and so much kind of interesting stuff of this series, and just how important it was for the game, and how important it was for those guys, and just everything. And it really set the stage for the entire decade in a lot of ways, more so than really any game. And it was so it's like you said, I don't think you understated it in the beginning when you said it might be one of the most important series in NBA history.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just,
we can even do it justice. I mean, we could do an entire series, or an entire show about this entire series, this entire year, or something like that. I mean, but this series in particular, we can only talk about the Game 7, but there's so much there. It's just such a voluminous series, and guys, and the people who are in there and the future coaches that are playing. I mean, it's just there's so much there.
Yeah, and of course, the Lakers would end up winning in '85, beating the Celtics in another great series. '86, the Celtics would beat the Rockets, who upset the Lakers in the conference finals, and then '87, the Lakers would beat the Celtics to have a 2-1, head-to-head edge, and after that, the Celtics were overtaken by the Pistons, and Bird's back injury started to be an issue, and they never were really contenders again. And the Lakers would have another couple years, and then and then fade off as Kareem retired and the other guys got older. But yeah, it's another great series, and we're pretty much into all. Yeah, obviously, when it's 7-game series, you're likely going to have a pretty great series, and we're into the final 4 of our choices for Game 7. So we're getting to some great stuff. So yeah, and we'll be back soon to talk more about some great Game 7. So come back with us.